About this time, when the word deism was being used, and again, it was influenced by France and the French infidelity,
Sure.
that the Franklin, if anybody would have been called one, he would have. And so let's examine what a deist, who Franklin is, would have believed.
Mm-hmm.
And now the deists draw their original thought from Sir Isaac Newton.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Isaac Newton was a Christian. Sir Isaac Newton spent more writing about the end of the world and trying to understand the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. I mean, he wrote volumes on trying to understand the book of Revelation and Daniel and when Jesus was going to return and everything like that. But he also discovered the laws of planetary motion and gravity, the laws of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And with this discovery that there are laws that govern nature, this gave ripple to, a long time later, people think, well, maybe God made the laws of nature and left.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what a deist was, that God made everything and then he left, put the laws into motion and then, turned the clock on and then went out of the room. And so a classical, traditional deist does not believe in prayer, because why would you pray? Because God's got the laws of nature and they're ruling everything.
Right.
They do not. A deist does not believe in divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at our founders in America, they all believed in prayer. They all believed in divine intervention. And indeed, Ben Franklin did. And Ben Franklin, in 1748, he was the governor of Pennsylvania, and he set aside a day of fasting. In 1751, Franklin built a hospital and dedicated it to Christ. Franklin was raised Presbyterian. Mm-hmm. But he said he early on absented himself from Sunday service because he had difficulty with concepts of predestination and so forth. Franklin, in his autobiography, listed 13 goals in life, and the 13th one was to imitate Jesus. Franklin promoted George Whitefield. Now, one of the movements in America, beginning in 1740, around then, was George Whitefield was a preacher who was an Anglican. He was a part of the Anglican Church, but he was friends with John Wesley and Charles Wesley, who eventually founded the Methodist denomination. Mm-hmm. But this was still when they were under the Anglican umbrella, so they had permission to go in. But it was sort of a new thing, and so the old nominal Anglican ministers, they didn't want George Whitefield coming and preaching because he was trying to make it a personal thing in your life. Mm-hmm. And so George Whitefield was turned out of the churches. Ben Franklin built an auditorium in Philadelphia for George Whitefield to preach in, and it was later donated. It became the first building of the University of Pennsylvania.